Kyle tries to outrun his demons first thing in the morning, music blasting in his ears. Plunging into the pool as he arrives home though, the memories come flooding back, and he's grateful the water can muffle his screams. Amelia Faith, or Mia, wakes to her usual morning routine, snoozing her alarm, taking her pill, and waking her baby sister Becca. Mrs. Rothwell, her foster mother, greets her warmly, mentioning she'd like to hold an 18th birthday dinner for Mia. It'll be good for her and the other foster kids. Mia humbly insists she doesn't need anything for her birthday, but instead lies to Mrs. Rothwell that she's going to the library, asking her for money to pay for a bus fare and snacks. Mia's childish and has a tell for when she lies. She crosses her fingers behind her back. Kyle lays about in his disorderly room, strewn with sketches of the accident and paperwork for his scholarship which he never filled out. When he gets a voice note from Josh, complaining about being utterly bored after being home for 3 weeks already, and begging Kyle to come see him. His mom Lisa offers him pancakes when he enters the kitchen, but he's got no appetite, as per usual. His parents try to be encouraging, with his dad, Connor, mentioning they spoke to Josh. Kyle cuts them off, announcing he's already going over to Josh's place. Lisa is encouraging, but then Connor starts pressing Kyle about the scholarship paperwork again, and he lashes out. Lisa swoops in, trying to do damage control and take the pressure off. As Kyle's leaving, he can hear his parents debate about the scholarship and giving him more time. It's only been a few months since the accident. Kyle starts the car, but anxiety overwhelms him. He exits and starts walking. Mia visits the national park to snap photos of the flora and fauna. Kyle arrives at Josh's place hours late, on account of walking. He can barely look at Josh's injuries, but Josh laughs it off with humor. Josh wonders where he's been, and if he's spoken to Noah's parents, who have called repeatedly, wanting to speak to the boys. Neither of them can remember what happened right before the crash, due to the shock. Josh seems to want to talk more, but they're interrupted by his mother, who rushes Kyle out because the physical therapist is arriving soon. Kyle promises to visit Josh another time. Before leaving, Josh's mom speaks to Kyle, revealing to him that Josh may never walk again, but his parents don't have the heart to tell him yet. She calls it a blessing that Kyle isn't hurt anymore, but piles guilt on him for Josh's debilitated condition, and for Noah's fatal end. She cruelly tells him that she wishes Josh had never gotten into the car with him, flooding Kyle's soul with regret and shame, pushing him over the edge. He feels broken, worthless, and weighed down with survivor's guilt. Kyle heads to the national park, standing at the edge of the gorge with Josh's mom's words, and the memories of the accident resounding in his head. He's ready to jump. Mia's taking photos when she spots him through her viewfinder and fakes an accident, yelling out for help to stop him from jumping. It works, and Kyle immediately runs over to where he sees her fall, checking to see if she's okay. He's extremely concerned, but Mia breaks character when she notices a lizard on her arm and spazzes out, screaming. Kyle returns to his usual cold demeanor upon realizing she's faking, asking her to stay out of his business. But Mia insists she won't let him leave. She'd never be able to live with herself if she let him jump. Kyle's extremely stubborn, but Mia is equally persistent, threatening that if he jumps, she will too, running up to the ledge to prove it. The two trip and fall as Kyle stops her, and Mia seizes Kyle's phone after the scuffle, texting herself from it so she has his number. She offers her hand to a befuddled Kyle, introducing herself. When Mia returns home, Mrs. Rothwell wonders where she's been, and without even looking at her, can tell Mia has her fingers crossed behind her back when she lies about getting carried away at the library. Connor considers getting another therapist for Kyle, seeing as how he won't eat or even talk to them when his son walks in, clearly overhearing his insensitive comments. He just heads straight to his room, unable to process any of it. Mia looks up the article on Kyle, Noah and Josh's accident, realizing she recognizes him. She calls up her older foster sister, asking her if she's still capable of her responsible mom act. Kyle wakes to the sound of Mia's voice, spinning a remarkably tall tale about how Kyle confided he needed to get away, and she invited him on a 10-day trip to Spain to see her mother. He bolts up and heads outside, but Lisa's already on the phone with Mia's mom, and Mia's such a fantastic liar. She's seamlessly delivering the act without crossing her fingers, controlling the conversation and leaving Kyle too stupefied to find a chance to interrupt. Lisa wonders how come Kyle never mentioned Mia, and she quickly stops him, smoothing it over by pretending the story is embarrassing. Kyle drags her outside, wondering what her game is. Mia proposes that he come on the trip with her as a brain cooler, a chance to rekindle his appreciation for life, and she won't tell his parents the true story of how they met. Plus, if he still wants to end himself after they return from the trip, she won't get in his way. She gives him some time to think about it as he kicks her out, but is sure to remind him that they leave in 3 days, and she needs a photo of his passport in front of his parents before she leaves. While showing Mia out, Lisa notes her shirt is inside out. Mia claims she wears it that way purposefully, to make herself seem unconventional. Connor visits Kyle in his room, proposing they go out and play a little soccer, or watch the match tonight with some pizza, clearly making an attempt to reconnect with his son. But Kyle turns him down. Connor tries to relate to Kyle that while he understands what he's going through is difficult, he can't continue shutting the world out. Kyle gets frustrated, not understanding what his father wants from him, but Connor confesses the only thing he wants is this son back. Kyle feels like that person is gone, and it pains Connor to hear this. He hands Kyle his passport and a credit card, insisting that he go out and find himself again. Becca wonders if Mia really has to go on this trip, but Mia insists she has questions that need to be answered. Mia's phone chimes with a message from Josh and a photo of his passport. The two board the plane, and Mia rambles on and on about her excitement and nervousness for the adventure. She's abnormally gung-ho next to Kyle, who's very stoic and unimpressed, as most passengers are, for the plane ride. He notices her trying to write down emergency instructions and hands her the pamphlet. By the time she starts confiding this is her first time on an airplane, Kyle, who's clearly traveled before, is already tuning her out with his headphones on full volume. When he wakes mid-flight and finds her sleeping on his shoulder, he shrugs her off like a nuisance. The couple land in Madrid and collect the vehicle Mia booked for the trip. She talks to the surfer dude about the van, which was booked a year in advance by Noah, whom he mistakenly thinks is Kyle. Mia clarifies that Noah couldn't make it, giving him Kyle's information before he shows them the van. It's a fully equipped sleeper van, and Kyle is the extremely reluctant designated driver because Mia can't drive. Kyle drives absurdly slowly, paranoid about everything on the road, constantly checking all his mirrors, and even going so far as to try to switch off Mia's music while driving, as if it is a distraction. Mia defiantly puts the music back on, dancing around and trying to lighten the mood. She pokes at Kyle, who hasn't spoken a word the entire time, wondering if he's truly not going to ask her anything about herself, or even the trip they're on. As persistent as she is, it's like talking to a wall. She tries again in a few miles, but again, she's mostly talking to herself as she yammers on about accumulating pictures for her photolog, titled Expiration Date. She decides to change tactics and suggests they stop for food, finding a restaurant on the map at the next exit. Mia gives Kyle the directions, but he repeatedly ignores her and they're about to miss the stop, so Mia grabs the wheel, forcibly turning them into the lot. Kyle panics, bringing the car to a screeching halt. Kyle has the wheel in a white-knuckled grip and is breathing heavily, trying to stop himself from shaking. He warns Mia through gritted teeth to never do that again. Mia tries offering a weak apology, but Kyle snaps at her, not wanting to hear whatever stupid thoughts she had running in her mind just now. Mia orders food for them both and an extra muffin, pulling out a single birthday candle from her back. Kyle responds to a text from his mom, then heads into the restaurant. When he walks in, he notices Mia crying over her birthday muffin with its lone candle. He realizes then that he's been kind of a jerk, feeling bad for how he snapped at Mia. Mia ignores yet another worried phone call from Mrs. Rotswell. Kyle finally opens up, asking what the trip is about. Mia admits the trip is about finding her mom, much to Kyle's confusion, since he thought his parents already spoke to her mom. She confesses that it was her foster sister they spoke to, and she doesn't know her birth mother, but expresses hopeful excitement at the idea of meeting her on her birthday. She's done extensive research over the years and come up with a list of 10 mother candidates, the first of which is in Segovia. Hearing how close they are to Segovia, Mia panics and changes into her favorite shirt, which she brought just to meet her mom. But after she's changed, she suddenly gets cold feet, deciding it's better they go and rest at the place she's booked for them tonight, and resume their trip tomorrow. Kyle returns to their parking spot with food, but Mia's already passed out. He whispers a happy birthday as he places her dinner next to her. Noticing her journal in her bag, he gets curious and flips through the pages, which detail every aspect about her trip, and even contains a list of things to tell and ask her mother. It makes Kyle soften to her, seeing her in a different light. Mia wakes the next morning, taking her pill as usual and then searching for Kyle, only to find that he's not there. She searches everywhere, beginning to grow pale as she notices all his things are gone. She worries she's been abandoned. She paces outside, calling his phone, when she hears ringing approaching. Kyle appears behind her, hands and mouth full, when she wonders where he's been. He calmly explains he went to shower and get them both breakfast, taking his bag with him so he wouldn't wake her by constantly coming in and out of the van. Mia's surprised, admitting she thought he was going to leave, but Kyle affirms that they have a deal. He doesn't intend to go anywhere. Mia's so relieved she hugs him, almost making him spill the cocoa. As they set back out, they hit a bump, both literally and metaphorically, and Mia spills cocoa all over her favorite shirt. She's upset at staining it, feeling disheartened that she won't get to wear it to greet her mother. Kyle pulls into the city, parking the car, and offers to take Mia shopping for new clothes as a belated birthday present. Mia refuses, insisting she can't accept it, and Kyle huffs, exiting the van. In his absence, Mia takes the opportunity to go through his bag, finding and quickly flipping through his sketchbook, but she quickly closes it upon seeing drawings of the accident. She finally decides to exit the car, taking the moment to walk around the city and take some photos. She returns to the van just in time to reconvene with Kyle, who's got an arm full of shopping bags with clothes for Mia. She thanks him, running inside to change and presenting herself in her new outfit. Kyle hands her one more bag, this one being her birthday gift. Opening it, she finds a pair of Ray-Bans that are slightly too large for her, but Mia loves them, having never even owned a pair of sunglasses before, much less brand name ones. They arrive at their first stop in Segovia, and Kyle can see the anxiety on Mia's face. He watches from a distance as she speaks to the woman, who doesn't recognize her. Mia walks back to the car, looking like a wilted flower, and Kyle lifts her spirits, reminding her that they still have 9 more chances to find her mom. Mia perks up a bit, and the pair set out on the road again. They go from place to place, crossing name after name off Mia's list and bonding the whole while through. Mia's adventurous spirit slowly grows on Kyle, as well as her strength. He finds himself finding more and more compassion for her, even becoming a bit inspired. While Mia chats with another mom candidate, Kyle responds to a text from Josh, sending him a photo of the Spanish scenery. He takes the opportunity to sneak a photo of Mia too, but she catches him and he lies, claiming his mom asked for pictures. As they walk through the town, Kyle plays football briefly with some passing kids, and Mia remarks that he could get a scholarship with his talent. Kyle confesses he already did, but hasn't signed the papers, joking that he was dragged to Spain by a weird girl before he could. Kyle offers that they eat a fancy lunch, his treat. Kyle's curious about the pills he sees Mia take every day, but she lies that they're just her vitamins. He's also curious about how she intended to make this trip work if she couldn't drive, and how she came up with the list of candidates. Mia explains that her best friend was supposed to come on the trip, but couldn't make it, and her foster brother turned hacker helped her locate the information about her mother. She shows him a copy of her birth certificate, explaining that they found her mother is from Spain, a former exchange student in California. After that, she looked up every woman in Spain with her mother's name. Luckily, it's a unique name, so there weren't many options, and Spanish women often keep their maiden names. Mia confides she got fed up with the unanswered questions, showing Kyle her necklace, the only thing she has left of her mother. She reveals she has 24 foster siblings, and has lived in 12 homes throughout her time in the system, but none of them were real homes like Kyle has. She's aged out of the system now, but Mrs. Rothwell has offered to give her a place to stay till she goes to college. Their conversation is interrupted as the waiter brings the bill, which they end up in a small tug-of-war over, as Mia tries insisting she wants to see how much she owes Kyle, to pay him back. The squabble knocks over Mia's notebook, and Kyle picks it up to return it to her when he notices a photo that's popped out, a photo of Mia and Noah. Kyle storms out of the restaurant with Mia chasing after him. He's in disbelief that Noah is the friend who was supposed to come on this trip, and can't fathom why she would choose to bring him of all people, the reason that Noah is gone. Kyle wonders if this is some sort of sick game, but Mia explains it wasn't purposeful. She recognized him at the park, and when she saw him about to jump, she thought she could help him, that maybe they could help each other. Mia tells Kyle the story of how she and Noah met in photography class. They hit it off instantly, and when she told Noah about wanting to meet her mother, he was in full support. He bought the plane tickets, helped her save money, and even rented the van. Kyle recounts that he and Noah were in the same grade growing up. They used to play freeze tag as children and were on the same soccer team in first grade, but Noah stopped playing. After that, they just nodded each other in the halls, having grown completely apart. Kyle wishes he'd known Noah better, and Mia affirms that Noah was one of a kind. Mia and Kyle head back out on the road, with a new but odd sense of peace established between them. While driving through the countryside, as Mia excitedly chats about the must-see sand dunes and a meteor shower tonight, they're suddenly pulled over by the police. The Spanish officers exit the vehicle, asking Kyle for license and registration. The man informs Kyle that he's driving too slow, and that this first time is a warning, but the next time they catch him, he'll be fined. Mia struggles to contain her laughter as she bids the officers goodbye, joking that Kyle must be the only person under 80 to be stopped for driving too slow. They arrive at the beach in the evening. Mia takes a deep breath of the salty air, remarking that she's met her end and gone to Venus. Kyle definitely thinks she's an alien. She goads him into going into the water with her, and though he's initially apprehensive about going fully clothed, he joins her anyways, splashing and playing around with her in the waves. Kyle wraps his arms around her waist while playing, when the two make eye contact and a palpable tension grows between them. Mia's first to break from the moment, quickly mentioning they should get dinner before they miss the meteor shower. Kyle slowly deflates, nodding wordlessly. Mia starts heading ashore, and Kyle, not wanting to let the moment turn sour, strips his shirt off, wringing it out above her head to give Mia one last splash before they head in. Kyle and Mia sit by the campfire waiting for the meteor shower, when Mia asks him what his favorite place in the universe is, offering that hers is Venus. Kyle wonders what her obsession with Venus is about, and Mia explains that on her Venus, there's no war, hunger, pain, no lonely orphans or loveless parents. Mia tries insisting it was an accident, but Kyle confesses that he was the one who was behind the wheel that night. He lost control of Josh's car, which he wasn't even supposed to be driving. Mia tries reassuring him that Noah wouldn't want to see him like this, but Kyle doesn't know that, pointing out that they can't exactly ask Noah how he feels about anything now. It wasn't just Noah's life he ended, but Josh's too. They don't know if he'll ever be able to walk again, and Kyle admits he can't live with that. Mia thinks there must have been a reason why Kyle made it out okay when the others didn't. trying to convince him that he's been given a second chance to make a difference in this world. And it's all a matter of perspective. Like with her mother, she could be upset that her mom left her, or she could choose to be grateful she gave birth to her. She tells Kyle the same thing Noah told her once, when she felt unworthy of life: there will always be someone, somewhere, who's happy you were born. The two hug and pull away. It almost seems like they're about to kiss again when suddenly Mia faints. Kyle waits for over 2 hours at the hospital on pins and needles before he finally gets to talk to a doctor about Mia. The doctor assures him she's fine, they're discharging her soon, and that this is normal for people with her condition. Kyle's confused as to what condition the doc's referring to, but the doctor thinks Mia should be the one to explain. Kyle asks if she's okay when she exits, but Mia storms out of the hospital, being cagey about it. She tries playing it off like she's fine, saying she just forgot to take her pills, but Kyle isn't buying the vitamin story anymore. Sighing, Mia admits that she has a genetic heart defect, and states she's releasing Kyle from their agreement. She's used to the disappointment by now. Kyle insists he won't abandon her, promising he'll be her chauffeur till the end of their trip. Becca confesses she has something to tell Mrs. Rothwell back at home. Mia wakes the next morning, taking her pill and ignoring countless missed calls from Mrs. Rothwell. Her phone won't stop ringing as she and Kyle walk through the city, and Kyle inquires about who she's ignoring, unable to play dumb anymore. She confesses to him that she ran away from her foster mother, not telling her where she was going, because she knew Mrs. Rothwell would have wanted her to have the surgery she was scheduled for. Kyle's clearly trying not to judge, but questions her judgment and deciding to travel to Spain instead of having a life-saving surgery. Mia lies that her doctor said it was perfectly safe for her to travel, but goes on to explain that she didn't want to wait her whole life to see her mother, only to lose her life on an operating table before she could meet her. That comment alarms Kyle, who wonders how dangerous the surgery is. Mia explains it's 50-50, but she's not afraid of losing her life. She's afraid of going invisible, of having existed and not changed the world or anyone else's life in any way. Kyle suddenly understands her photolog, inquiring how many views she's got. Mia doesn't actually know, and Kyle demands her phone to check, quickly realizing that her account was set to private the entire time. That's why she didn't have any views. He wonders why she didn't mention anything about her heart before now, and Mia confesses she wanted to feel what it was like to be a normal girl, for once. The couple continue their adventure across the Spanish countryside, taking photos, making memories, and crossing off mother candidates until they reach the very last one. They look over the town, anxiety about the finality of this destination setting in. Mia and Kyle are convinced this one has to be the one, and suddenly, it starts sinking in for Kyle that this is the end of their journey. He wants to say something to Mia, but she stops him, not ready to face the end of the trip either, and asks that they just enjoy this moment for now. Kyle agrees, and the two gaze into the distance in silence. The teens track down the last candidate, asking for her by name. The woman stops, wondering who these strangers are. She questions them in Spanish. Kyle asks if she can speak English, and Maria replies that she's a bit rusty, since she hasn't used it since she was an exchange student years ago in New York. Mia's heart brims with hope and release, then is instantly shattered in the space of one sentence. Deflating, she apologizes to the woman, explaining they've mistaken her for someone else. Mia's anguished at not having found her mother, so much so that she doesn't even want to speak, asking for some space from Kyle. Kyle waits, but as the time gets longer and longer, his worry builds, and Mia's not answering her phone. He runs around the town searching for her, before eventually finding her on the steps of the cathedral. He offers her a hand, helping her up. As they arrive back at the van, Mia realizes the next campsite is a 2-hour drive away, but Kyle proposes another idea. He pulls up into the lot of a fancy hotel, trying to book a room last minute. As they wait for the receptionist to check for availability, he hands Mia a couple pamphlets on tourist destinations from the front desk. Luckily, there's a room available. Kyle shows Mia the room, and she's flabbergasted. She's never been in such a luxurious hotel before. She flits from room to room, excitedly chirping about how nice everything is, and Kyle's deeply satisfied to see how happy she is. She decides she'll take a bath before dinner, and Kyle takes the time to call his parents and reserve them a table. The mention of parents makes Mia think about Mrs. Rothwell, and she finally decides to return her call. Mia apologizes to her foster mom for worrying her and for lying, assuring her that she and her heart are all right. Kyle notices Mia's taking awfully long to come down for dinner, deciding to run upstairs and check on her. He finds Mia sound asleep, hair damp and still in her robe. He admires her peaceful, slumbering expression, before heading back down to the table to wait till she wakes. It's completely dark when Mia comes down to meet Kyle, who's fastidiously sketching away in his sketchbook. She apologizes for being so late, unaware that Kyle already knew the reason for her tardiness. He simply smiles and offers her the dinner he grabbed for her. Kyle mentions he wants them to do some sightseeing before they head home tomorrow, but Mia shakes her head in confusion. She can't go home, she has to keep looking. Kyle doesn't understand, they've found all the names on the list, but Mia thinks she made a mistake or something. Kyle sobers, reminding Mia that her life isn't a game, and she can't meet her demise searching for someone who might not want to be found. Kyle commends her, she did her best, and Mia admits she knows she should give up, but she's fixating on knowing why her mother abandoned her. Kyle suggests that maybe her mother thought she'd have a better life that way, but Mia doesn't want to hear it, playing victim and claiming Kyle wouldn't understand. Kyle's angered by Mia's selfishness. Mia looks back to the empty table, where Kyle was drawing a portrait of them. Mia finds Kyle, letting him know that even though she may be wrong, she feels the need to see this journey through. She begs Kyle for 3 more days, promising that if she doesn't find her mother by then, she'll return home and have the surgery. Kyle agrees, and Mia whispers that if anything should go wrong, she'll see him on Venus. With that, Mia and Kyle share their first kiss, cementing their love without words. The next morning, Mia finds Kyle bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the breakfast table, and he confesses he's been thinking a lot about her mother. He offers his findings to Mia, having gone over the birth certificate and contemplating the possibility of there being a typo in the spelling of her mother's name. He theorizes that the A is actually an O, and that her name is, in fact, Maria Ostaleros. Then he shows Mia the pamphlet he handed her earlier, which is for a small town. Opening it, Mia finds an image of a saint identical to the one on her mother's pendant, and Kyle reveals that through some research, he's located the soul Maria Ostaleros that resides near there. Mia's elated by this new development, and the two set out with renewed hope. The drive is over 3 hours long, and Kyle notices Mia's sleepy on the way. He encourages her to get some rest, promising to wake her if he sees anything interesting she'd like. Mia nods, curling up to sleep. The trip progresses and Kyle tries waking Mia, only to find she's not responding. The doctor at the hospital informs Kyle that Mia's condition has worsened, and she needs to do the surgery as soon as possible. At this point, the doctors aren't sure how long she'll last, but insist she can't fly in her condition. The doctor begs Kyle to convince Mia to let them perform the surgery, and he agrees, opening her bag to fetch her ID and sort out the paperwork. Kyle enters Mia's hospital room, confronting her immediately on why her ticket is only one way, wondering if her plan was to chase down the shadow of her mother till she perishes. Mia tries denying it, but she can't tell him she's going to have the surgery when she asks. She just hangs her head in shame. Kyle's livid. He can't fathom why she'd rather just give up than have someone love her, or loving someone herself. Mia claims her heart's always had an expiration date, and she doesn't want them to open it till she meets her mother. Mia thinks it isn't fair to have to choose between him and her mother, but Kyle can't bear the weight of this. He storms outside to get some fresh air, and witnesses the EMTs rolling someone in when the sounds of the ambulance cause him to have a flashback of the night of the crash. He recalls Josh was wasted and in the passenger's seat, scrolling through his phone, when he drunkenly tried insisting on showing it to Kyle while he was driving, shoving the phone in his face. It was while Kyle was trying to push the phone out of his vision, reminding Josh that he was driving, that he lost control of the car. Kyle calls Josh, telling him it all came back. Josh starts apologizing profusely, admitting it was all his fault for distracting Kyle with the phone he'd remembered a while back, but couldn't bring himself to confess to Kyle. Kyle takes equal responsibility for looking at the phone and trying to get around the motorcycle. He reconciles with Josh as they both realize it was an accident, advising his friend that all they can do now is forgive themselves and learn from it. The conversation with Josh reminds Kyle what's important, and he returns to Mia. They both exchange apologies, and Kyle confesses he doesn't care how long he has left with her, as long as they get to be together. He's decided to take her to her mother, on the condition that she promises him she'll fight, and that after they meet, she'll return and do the surgery. Mia's about to cross her fingers and lie to him, but looking into Kyle's tearing eyes, she honestly agrees to his terms. As Kyle wipes her tears away, they confess their love for each other for the first time. Kyle sneaks Mia out of the hospital, and the two set out on the road towards their final destination. They arrive at the house, and Mia takes a deep, nervous breath before heading to the door. Kyle gives her an encouraging smile. She rings the doorbell and Maria comes out. Mia introduces herself, showing her the pendant, and Maria drops her book in shock, immediately recognizing her daughter. She bursts into tears as she embraces Mia for the first time since birth, pulling her into the house so they can talk. On the way back, Kyle stops at his backup location for if Mia's reunion failed, a photographic tourist site. Mia admits she'd waited to meet her mom for so long, but when she finally got there, none of it seemed to matter. All she could think about was Kyle. Kyle puts on Mia's favorite song, asking her to dance. She confesses to Kyle she's scared, blaming him for it, as she was never afraid to meet her demise before she met him. Suddenly Mia grips her chest, growing pale and gasping for air. Mia's rolled into the operating room while Kyle paces outside, anxiously listening to the beeping monitor. He breaks into tears as he hears the steady sound of a flatline. Kyle visits a grave, stopping to scroll through Mia's photolog to cheer himself up, as he contemplates how some people appear in your life and utterly change you forever. His parents hug him goodbye as he prepares to head out on a road trip, bidding him safe travels. Kyle hops into the car, double-checking that the driver knows how to navigate such a vehicle. Mia beams at him with a cocky smile, boasting that she had a fantastic teacher. The two set out together, heading towards their Venus on Earth.